Good afternoon. Today we convene the August session of the Nerd Council of Doom.
Doom.
Gentlemen, how goes it?
Well, I can report from the Great White North that we're all big old nerds up here. Our prime minister is a big old nerd. Our legislature is full of nerds. The parliament is wall to wall nerds. I got to work on the premier. He's kind of a Chad. We got to work on that. But other than that, nerds all over.
Excellent. And in the creature-infested swamps of the South?
Our hydrological experiments backfired a bit last night. It was a setback, but we continue onward. I, of course, convened with some of the nerds in the north back at the end of July, and I will report on that at your leisure, but things are moving along nominally.
Excellent. Here, more in the middle, we are entering a most dangerous and annoying time of year called back to school. It is the time where mothers will cry about their kids going into the big yellow monster, taking them into the mental conditioning factories, which we have set up. And unfortunately, the yellow monsters will slow us to a crawl no matter where we're trying to go. Be careful, everyone. So, gentlemen, for the month of August 2025, I have begun work on my new plan for world domination.
Let's hear it, Brother Yang.
Now, hear me out. Nerd Council of Doom, K-pop. We are going to have a band of attractive young women in very skimpy outfits singing somewhat questionable, somewhat wholesome songs. They will never kiss any males on screen, so we will be family friendly in that way. But we shall have the youth of the world singing songs about our praises and how glorious the world will become when we dominate. And it is very fortunate to get started. I have won Kim Jong-un's pleasure squad in a hand of poker last week, so we already have a head start on the talent.
Very good. And the beauty with if you're looking at North Korean dancers, is that you really just have to pay them in food.
Exactly.
You don't see a lot of that. So.
And, if one gets out of line, it's easy to find a replacement.
Dark. Very good.
Excellent. Gentlemen, what evil plans have you concocted?
Well, I don't know. This isn't my concoction so much. It is rather the concoction of, not really of Wizards of the Coast. It is a concoction of, if you could pull that up for us here, Young, you can. So this is the Dungeons & Dragons Crochet Pattern Book, a book of many patterns. Hello, Mark. Hello, Damien. This burst onto the Twitterverse scene in the last week, and it earned a great deal of ire. I know there are strongly held opinions within our own council. Hello, Tracy. It is roughly equivalent, I would say, to a G.I. Joe lunchbox. It's roughly equivalent to the Dungeons & Dragons branded coffee maker. It's what it is. It's a licensed book, right? So it's been licensed by WotC for Dungeons & Dragons, but it was written by I don't know. It was what's the name on this thing? Stacey King, who I imagine came to the wrote a letter or email ran into them in an elevator and said, "Hey, I've got this great idea for a book." And they said, "Okay." And now we're going through the forest. And so here it is. You can crochet yourself an owl bear, a gelatinous cube, a mimic. I imagine quite a few various critters are found inside. And it has gone down about as well as you might expect it to in the Twitterverse. Hello, Patty's Parlor. And it's been very popular with almost nobody. But there it is. This is so the great thing about it, though, I have to say, I don't know if people are considering all the angles. If you want to upscale your game, crochet your own miniatures. There you go. You know, you want a bit of a gelatinous cube, just plonk that chonky boy down, and he's going to wipe out the board. And if you're looking for an owl bear who you may run away from or may cuddle with, there's an owl bear for you. So this has gotten everyone's feathers in a fluster the last week. Unfortunately, Amazon includes absolutely no interior looks at the thing.
Pity.
It can be had. Well, I suppose that would rather give away the game. It can be had here in Canada for the low price of $39 in hardcover. It's not coming out, though, until 2026. So you do have time to purchase your crochet needles and all of your yarn that you're going to need for this. Pick the color, what color your gelatinous cube is going to be. Clear, I would imagine. What is it? It could be a gray owl bear, a brown owl bear, screech owl bear. You can pick all the colors. You can get all that ready. But that's the latest from the world of crochet and the world of dice. I imagine Stacey King probably plays Dungeons and Dragons, and
I think she watches Critical Role,
which is Critical Role, and crochets while doing so. My wife, while playing, knits, does not crochet, but there you are.
So Patty says, I have to see if the patterns inside it actually measure up. My wife is an expert fiber artist, and she can tell bad patterns from a look. That is an interesting question, if they have quality or not.
Yeah, I mean, what's pictured on the cover looks perfectly good. I mean, in terms of technical capacity, I mean, that hand, I would never even begin to. I can't knit. I could barely wear clothing. So making it is beyond me. I can't imagine what goes into making that hand. The little sword and the arrow sticking in the gelatinous cube are relatively well done. So I can't, judging by the pictures, I can't really fault the quality there. Who knows what else is in there? There's 5, whatever looks like a beholder is off screen. There's 5 things pictured here. So, who knows what else the rest of it looks like. But it looks, for what it is.
Dungeon Delver, I think you were going to interject with something.
Well, I was just going to point out, so I tweeted about this a little bit, and people, all I said was, TSR did this in the mid-1980s. The Blooms were packing TSR nepotistically. They had over 100 employees who never worked for TSR. They just showed up and collected a paycheck. They used TSR as a money pump for their family. The game suffered because the game was not being developed because Gary was off in California partying and selling D&D entertainment. And that brings me to an interesting historical point, because people say, well, Bill, there were coloring books, there was D&D candy. And, I say, look at the Your Gateway to Adventure catalog that we all got with our TSR box sets back in the day. If you bought a TSR box set from 1977 when the Holmes Basic bookcase box set was released, probably all the way to the very end, there were TSR product catalogs in it. I have the silver anniversary box set, limited 5,000, and there was a product catalog in it. The fact of the matter is, TSR never let off the gas when it came to merch. Gary wanted Dungeons and Dragons to be as big a name as Star Wars.
Right. Yep.
But what the Blooms did when they brought in the Needlepoint Company was they brought the Needlepoint Company in just to hire two cousins who made these little needlepoint patterns and put them in Ziploc bags and put a Duets on the back, and then I guess they took them to Ben Franklin or wherever and just sold them, you know, however that went. TSR was in a serious slump because it was being skimmed and drained at the time, and Gary was not aware of this. And the parallel for me is interesting. Somebody said, I bet if you liked the current edition of D&D, you wouldn't have a problem with this. And the answer unequivocally is yes, but here's the reason. If the current edition of D&D was in good stewardship and was really the game it could be and the game it should be, and it was doing well, and it's not. D&D 2024 is not doing well. It was not the hit that they thought it would be. Then something like this would be quirky, it would be superfluous, but it would be fine. That they took resources at a time when, now look, love it or hate it, and I'm certainly not a huge fan, Baldur's Gate was a landmark event for Wizards of the Coast. It was the game. People streamed it, people talked about it, people memed about it. It was anything and everything they could want. And Wizards of the Coast slashed the entire interface group. All of the people responsible for working with Larian were let go. And Larian said, we looked back over at Wizards of the Coast and we're like, where are all the cool people that we used to talk to? They abandoned their digital service tabletop, which we could argue the merits of whether or not it was a good idea or bad idea to attempt that in the first place. But they cut them loose. They've had major executives bail out of the company, and this version of D&D, D&D 6th edition, is not being well received. This is what they decided to spend money on. This is a project like this had to at least cost, what do you think? Out the door, $1 million, $1.5 million?
Actually, I doubt that at all, because I don't think anyone at WotC worked on this.
Yeah, no,
I think
so
it's licensed. They sold a license to Stacey King to do this. I
Fair
don't think
enough.
they did. I mean, I don't think they may have had an editor look through it to make sure that she didn't screw anything up, but I don't think they spent any time on it. I don't.
Fair enough, but they spent energy that could have been better spent. And if you're a player, you're looking at this and you're going, where is my new World of Greyhawk box set?
Yeah.
Where is my Forgotten Realms set? Where is, I mean, look, I hate it. If you go on YouTube and listen to D&D horror stories put up by other channels, almost every one of them involves, so we were playing Curse of Strahd, so I'm not a fan of Curse of Strahd, but if you were a fan of Curse of Strahd, you're going, where's my follow-up to that? Mm-hmm. This is, regardless of what it is, and people are like, well, I'll buy it, I'll crochet an owlbear. Well, good for you. I'm glad you think it's cute. This is a bad move. It says, We don't care about the brand. We don't care that you want to game, that you want good gaming. I mean, back in May or June, whoever stepped up in the role that Chris Perkins had put out this long, heartfelt post on the D&D Beyond talking about you guys hold us accountable. We're going to listen to you, yada, yada, yada. Is this what people were saying? Wizards of the Coast figurehead?
That was the big groundswell. We need crochet patterns.
Were there people saying we need something like this? Or were they telling you we need rule books that bring gamers back and not tourists? We need rule books. We want campaign supplements that are about going into dungeons and encountering dragons, not going into a coffee shop and encountering fellow blue-haired college students. This is what you guys looked at, and this is what you guys thought it was the shot in the arm that D&D needed. And again, people who are like, no, this is fun, this is nice, this is cool. If this was coming in the middle of a wildly successful D&D, if this was 2017, 2018, I'd be like, you know what? Cool. Okay. I was never a guy who got upset about Stranger Things and people coming in through different doorways and that sort of thing. But if you bought the product, if you're coming in to D&D or you've been in D&D, I mean, I have talked to people who are like, I played D&D 2024 or 6th edition or whatever, and I love it. And guess what? I played 5th edition and I loved it. And I played 4th edition and I loved it. And I played Essentials and I loved it. And 3rd edition and 3.5 and 2nd edition and 1st edition and Basic. I have been playing for 40 years and every edition of D&D is wonderful and builds on the legacy behind it. If you're in that category, you've got to be looking at this going, wait a minute. This is where we're at now in the middle of a stumble. And you might say, well, Bill, they planned this a long time ago. Things like this get planned a year out. Which means they were planning this in 2024. Which means they were, of course, zero attention was paid to the 50th anniversary of Dungeons and Dragons. No attention at all. They changed some graphics.
The attention that was paid was overpriced minis and some insulting materials. Pretty much.
Yeah. A book written by two people who could not find Dungeons OD&D with a flashlight in both hands. And overpriced minis that they told whoever made them, I can't remember now, like, make these, that was their 50th anniversary push. So they were working on this license for this crochet book in the middle of Welcome 50th anniversary. Their priorities are in the wrong place. And to go back to TSR, and then I'll shut up about this, but to go back to TSR, the needlepoint business that the Blooms brought was literally the straw that broke the camel's back. It was at that point that I think the jig was up, and that happened in 1983 or 84. So, and TSR just started to crumble. Even if Gary could have held on to the company, I think things would have gone better. But that was that was it. And when I posted on Twitter, I'm like, guys, this has happened before, and it happened when D&D was in bad stewardship. If you love to needlepoint and you think this is cutesy, that's awesome. That's not what I'm talking about. I am talking about the future of D&D. I'm done.
You know, I agree with you 100%, but I think that in some ways this is like a replay of the barista module, where you know, objectively, the barista module was horrible for the game itself, and it really showed like the depths of you know, where creativity has sunk to. However, that was not an official WotC project. It's indicative of the thought of a lot of people who were sort of around the space, but it was not a WotC product. And this isn't an official WotC product either. So it doesn't bother me nearly as much. I mean, if we went back to lunchboxes or notebook covers or something, I don't think anyone would be as upset. But there's something I'm wondering about. To take this sort of a different angle a little bit and to bring us into the current Critical Role controversy, which is, what about, like, to me, this looks like a bunch of people were really banking, not necessarily WotC, because they clearly didn't know what they were doing, but a lot of people not officially connected with WotC were really banking on the 5e 2024 doing really well, doing gangbusters like the 2014 version did.
They wouldn't publish it if they thought it was going to tank, right? I mean, so they clearly, when they released it, they thought it was going to do well.
I don't know if I agree with that.
I think they initially thought it was going to do well, and then as the reaction unrolled, like, you saw support for it drop. There was this big, we're doing a new thing. You remember all the glossy videos and D&D 1 and all this great stuff about D&D 1? And then as it released, like, just when you think they'd ramp that up, all of that fell away because people were getting it and going, oh, this sucks. And so all of the support for it dwindled. So I think they went in, like, they got themselves dressed up in what they thought was their best, and they got to the party and realized they looked stupid. You know, it's like Bridget Jones showing up as a prostitute to the Tarts and Vickers party, right? Like, am I the only one who's dressed like this? You know, you know, just like, what? Because I think I think that because, like, why would they do it otherwise? They were making money. They didn't.
I'll tell you exactly why they did it, because they knew they had to get something out for the 50th anniversary. And they knew it had to be some sort of game edition. You know, you couldn't let that anniversary go by without coming up with something. And what they came up with was like a half-ass remake of the product that they've been using for 10 years.
It's like, well, I mean, it is sort of 5.5, right? It's so here's some changes that don't really change the game. Yeah, you know.
But my wondering is, you know, I think a lot of people see, I don't know. I think they could have supported it a lot more. They could have done a lot more to really play it up. And I think that there are some things that go along with it. Like, I think this book was part of that. They were selling the license as part of the strength of, hey, we have this new book coming out this year. It's going to be great. So Stacy probably signed the license, you know, late last year, early this year, before the numbers really came out. And to bring it over to Critical Role, people are wondering, they're having a new season 4, and they're going to be using D&D 5e 2024, even though they just came out with their own game, Daggerheart. And people are wondering, like, well, why would you use the official WotC brand when you have your own? Doesn't it signal a lack of confidence? Exactly. See, they have had a deal with D&D Beyond that D&D Beyond would advertise. I bet they made some kind of a licensing deal to get paid a certain amount of money to have 5e on. And this is the this is really only a few months after 5.5 came out. So I think that's why they're doing it. And I bet you there's a lot of other people who have sunk a lot of money into licensing who
Yes.
just have to suck it up and go with it.
They were gonna ride the big wave, right?
Yeah.
They were gonna ride the big wave.
Yeah.
And
I think that's what everyone was thinking.
Yeah. And I hope Stacey King sells enough books. I mean, there's got to be grandmothers out there like, what do I get for young Junior? All he does is that Dungeons and Dragons. I don't know what to buy for him. Oh, I'll crochet him a dragon.
Well,
Probably out there.
To be honest, if your grandma crocheted you a mimic for Christmas, that'd be
adorable.
Pretty cool.
Adorable. Yeah. I mean, grandma. I mean, my grandmother made me some of the god-awfulest ugly sweaters the world's ever seen, but it's from grandma, so you wear it, right?
Yeah. And I do kind of wonder, had the needlepoint thing gone off better back in the 80s, would it have changed the results of the Satanic Panic? Like if grandmas were making displacers, would they be like, well, I don't see Satan here.
I've needle pointed you a nice demigorgon.
Yeah. Do you want Asmodeus for your birthday?
Well, the thing about also, Bill, you talked about in the 80s is they actually brought on employees and essentially bought the company, right? That's that's just, and that whole mess, volumes could be written about the disaster that was TSR in the late days. And have been written, actually.
Well, and I mean, the perfidy of the Blooms can't be overstated. People have often said, Bill, what would you do if you could go back and change TSR history? I would go back with a cardiologist written heart healthy diet and one of those portable defib machines and give them to Don Kay's wife, because Don Kay passed away from a heart attack at 30. He was the chief investor at TSR and he was Gary's best friend. When he did, his wife took all of his gaming stuff over to Gary's house, dumped it on his front porch, and said, my husband invested, I've heard $500, I've heard $1,500 into this company. I want nothing to do with this. Here is this bag. Give me my money. And like on the spot, Gary didn't have $500. Gary probably didn't have $50, and I know how that feels. She wanted her money right then. No ifs, ands, or buts. And Brian Bloom was also a friend of Gary's, and he said, hey, I think I can take care of this. Let me talk to my father and to my brother Kevin. And they paid the debt. They bought Gary out and said, hey, man, you just focus on the creative. You don't worry about the business stuff. That's just a big, dumb hassle. We'll work on this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Gary dove into the creative and he did awesome creative stuff. And while that was going on, they were basically selling the company, not selling the company, but they were using the company as chips in a poker game that they were playing, and Gary wasn't invited. So I don't even know why I started telling that rant. Oh, right. The Blooms and their perfidy. So, you take away any of that, Gary stays in control of his own company. Would he have been some financial wizard and would still, the TSR would be in the hands of, Gail or Gary's kids or whatever? I don't know. But one thing I can tell you is the company wouldn't have been sucked dry by frivolous shit like a needlepoint company. Sorry, Padre.
What, for the frivolous shit or for the needlepoint?
Oh my goodness. For the former.
So, gentlemen, I have a question. if you could choose one product to license D&D, what would you pick?
Re-release of the Beck Me boxes.
I was thinking like an outside company.
Oh, wow. Something.
Yeah.
No, I do have an outside company do it. I don't want WotC touching them. Good Lord.
Well, that's true.
I want someone else to do it and do it right.
I was thinking like a Chinese buffet could license it and use the Heroes Feast.
There you go.
Where food just keeps appearing.
That's that
Boston Market, maybe.
Yeah, up here that's the Mandarin. That's a chain of Chinese buffet restaurants in Ontario. The Mandarin. It might be across Canada. I don't know. I've never eaten at one other within Ontario, but the food keeps coming and the regrets soon follow.
That should be their slogan. The food keeps coming, the regrets soon follow.
Well, not to tell tales out of school, but one of my boys, and I won't name names, but one of my boys overdid it at the Mandarin, and we haven't been back to that one since because of what happened in the washroom.
Oh no!
Actually, I should say on the way to the washroom.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, it's not what you can do.
No.
How
that has anything to do with WotC is, well, I don't know.
Well,
regurgitating.
Yeah, smelly.
Smelly.
But I think we can perhaps put the knitting to rest. And
although I did see in the Jorge says that the next D&D book from WotC is about knitting. Seriously. So I don't know if this is an adventure in which you have to knit your way out of the dungeon, or you've dropped a stitch and you've got to go back. I don't know.
That's the latest skill. You can you can get skill in knitting.
Add knitting to it.
But Dungeon Delver, I believe you had some memorial planned for one of your heroes.
Yes, I actually wanted this kind of happened in like I would have had more to say about this when it happened, but I was actually in Lake Geneva celebrating the life of Gary Gygax at EggCon, where I had a wonderful time, which I've talked about a lot on my own live stream, but we can certainly touch on here. But of course, July 27th, I believe, saw the passing of Ozzy Osbourne. And usually I'm on the spot with links and stuff, you guys. I'm sorry, I'm working on next to no sleep, but I think we've all seen the headlines and news clips and that sort of thing. I mean, to call Ozzy a complex person would be an understatement. He was a guy who, like so many musicians, I mean, I'll be the first to proudly tell anyone, I love Johnny Cash. I absolutely adore Johnny Cash. And yes, I mean all Johnny Cash. I am not one of those people who came in with like his version of Hurt, and then I'm like, I'm a Johnny Cash fan. Woo! I listened to Johnny Cash from the time I was a toddler on, and I still do today. And I think the parallels are very, very similar. I mean, people who talk about, oh, Hurt, what a beautiful song, and he covered I Hung My Head by Sting, and it's so heartbreaking. Johnny Cash burned down a national forest and expressed zero regret for it in the court, like was angry that he was being held on charges for that. Like he caused the deaths of some endangered condors, and his words to the judge were, and I quote, "I don't give a damn about any big yellow buzzards."
Big Bird was so hurt by that. He really was.
But to go back, the reason I mention it is as much as I love Johnny Cash and as gentle a poet as he could be, the man had demons that it took him his entire life to conquer. And the parallels with Ozzy, I don't think can be understated. Here is a guy who he didn't leave a footprint, guys. He left an entire giant's causeway across the music scene from 1970 until his passing. And he was working every day. He gave his last concert and then passed away a week later.
Yeah. I saw that just the other day, like what the date of his last concert. It was crazy.
Yeah. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna, I'm gonna do one more farewell show, and it was. He was a complex person. His peers and his family cared about him greatly. He would be the first person to tell you, though, about the problems he had. But one of the most interesting things, and I know for our audience, we're skating away from our usual topics of pop culture stuff, but one of the appellations given to Ozzy was Prince of Darkness. Oh, he's a Prince of Darkness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and he sang about being, my name is Lucifer, please take my hand, and Satan laughing spreads his wings and things like that. Ozzy's spirituality was a lot less dramatic than people give it. If you sit back and you really listen to the lyrics of the things he sang about, War Pigs is not a song about how cool war will be, because then Satan will have free reign and things like that. War Pigs is a deeply anti-war song. Children of the Grave is not about kids worshiping the devil, and it's not about a zombie apocalypse. It is about kids protesting. In 1971, the Vietnam War was still going strong. People tend to think of that as like Woodstock happened and they just decided to end the war.
Yeah.
No,
Right.
The war continued to the middle of 1970. Yeah. It literally ground on. Let me share this, because I thought this was an incredibly fascinating article, Yang. I just shared it up, and I will put this. This is a website. We have no affiliation with this, but let's see. I will private chat
yours up there, not mine.
I will private chat this URL if you want to.
He's got it.
Okay. But I'm not going to sit here and lie to people and say, oh, Ozzy went to church every Sunday. He could, and in the donation plate. Ozzy was a Christian. You talk about, but listen to the lyrics he's saying. Go listen to After Forever. After Forever is a very uncomfortable question to people who were like bought head and shoulders into that whole Prince of Darkness thing. Yeah. You think there's something glorious waiting for you when you die for mocking Christ? There's not. The joke's going to be on you.
Well, all of that stuff about Satan laughing, that it wasn't isn't that great? It was a warning.
Yeah.
It was a warning.
It was a stark warning. And I mean, After Forever, it starts off with the lyrics here. Well, I've seen the truth. Yes, I've seen the light, and I've changed my ways, and I'll be prepared when you're lonely and scared at the end of our days. Could it be you're afraid of what your friends might say if they knew you believe in God above? They should realize before they criticize that God is the only way to love. These are not the words of an inveterate Satan worshiper.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
no, they're not.
When Ozzy sang about matters of darkness and so on, they were about the terror of it, about the refutation, or he was engaging in pure fantasy. I mean, people have sung the praises of Alice Cooper's stage theatrics, and Cooper is he is saved, he is born again, he has a deep and abiding faith in Christ. It is a stage play. It
Well,
is literally theatrics.
It's a character he played.
Yeah, he quote down at the bottom of the article, you know, or towards the middle. I'm a Christian. I was christened as a Christian. I used to go to Sunday school. I believe in God. I don't go to church, but I don't think you have to go to church to believe in God. And that's something I can can get behind, you know. Here we are. He was Ozzy on stage and he was John Osbourne off stage in 1982 to Entertainment Tonight. He explained, does Christopher Lee play golf with vampires' teeth? Do these people who do horror movies walk around with black cloaks on every day of the week? It's just a role I'm playing.
Yeah. Actually, I think Christopher Lee, if anyone, probably did golf wearing vampires' teeth. But
I wouldn't put it past him to have done it at least once, right?
Yeah.
But then I think if their if their schedules had synced up, Christopher Lee probably would have like done a collab with Ozzy.
Yes,
for sure.
No,
so Mr. Osbourne,
his band would have done one.
Yeah.
The thing about Ozzy's lyrics about the persona, you know, exploring darkness is actually it's not anti-faith, it's not anti-God. Pretending it doesn't exist is the thing that is to deny faith, right? To pretend that there's no darkness, to pretend that there's no shadow, to pretend there's none of those things is immature and naive, and ultimately precisely what Satan would like, right? And I think C.S. Lewis puts it, you know, one of the things that Satan would like most is for us to just pretend he doesn't exist or think he doesn't exist. That's the best, right? And to go into those dark places it's not a betrayal of your faith. It's an honest wrestling with it. It's an honest look at it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you know, it's not a bad thing to say, let's be aware of what, you know, of what the consequences of life are. Let's be aware of what the pain and, you know, of life is. Let's be honest about those things.
You know, Joey Belladonna of Anthrax once said, very tongue-in-cheek, but I think maybe there's some humor to it, because he addressed this matter of, heavy metal is just all about darkness and ugliness and Satan worship and that sort of thing. He said, you know, if there is any music out there that's devil music, it's probably new age music, you know, because we're up front, we're in your face about destruction and madness and that sort of thing. If anybody's hiding it, it's probably those guys.
Well, so much of the heavy metal scene, you know, if you actually took the time to listen past the growling and the you know, the tone of it, is rooted in real faith. I mean, it's rooted in a real appreciation of the reality of the struggle and the danger and the reality, just the honest danger of temptation and of sin and of darkness. It's
sure.
not an embracing of those things. It's wrestling with it.
I can think of one or two bands. I worked in a record store back in the 1990s, and I can think of a handful of bands that were straight up, we are anti-Christian.
Oh, yeah.
We, you know, there were certainly bands but they were a joke. They were regarded as ridiculous. No, everybody knows Black Sabbath right now. Yang, do you know the band Venom? Do you know who Venom is?
Oh man,
I can't think of who that is.
I remember the name. I don't know. I couldn't tell you a single song, but I remember seeing the name back in the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's same here. That
Forever
you know,
ago.
he was very much like, you know, I think one of their albums, I'm not making this up, one of their albums was called At War with Christ. You know, but they're nobody wants to hear that. Okay. I conversely, I once heard someone describe, and this was fairly recently too, someone referred to Black Sabbath as arguably the first Christian rock band. Like there are a few bands like Stryper, and some others that have gone out there and they pushed a positive message behind a very heavy metal sound.
Yeah.
I think arguably that's a legitimate argument. What was it there? Was it Sabbath and Ozzy's entire focus? Absolutely not. I mean, Flying High Again is not, I mean, that's not, you know,
Right.
but you know, Mr. Crowley, you know, the focus of the song Mr. Crowley was not like, you're awesome, you're great. It's like, what the fuck was your problem, dude? You know? Yeah. And I feel like it was vastly overstated, this idea that Ozzy was some kind of evil, horrible person. I mean, the article ends and it talks about a 2011 documentary. So, you know, we're talking about 15 years ago now, called God Bless Ozzy Osbourne. He closes the door behind him to kneel alone in prayer. And as he created swirling works of art, he kept a copy of the Serenity Prayer on his desk, saying it helped him stay sober. I can't say, I can't know in my heart what Ozzy's faith was and what God's final judgment for Ozzy Osbourne will be. But if we take it on faith, no pun intended, that all of this positivity that I have found about Ozzy Osbourne over the years is true, then I personally think the man's reward is in heaven. He was a titan of music. He was an absolute force majeure. He cut across just untold numbers of musical lanes of influence. You know, you go back and I've met members of Ice-T's backup band. Who
that is the most random thing you have ever said, Bill.
Yes.
I have an autograph over here from one of them somewhere over here. I have an autograph, and they straight up they were like, hell yeah, Ozzy Osbourne, Black Sabbath. I mean, guys that like grew up in Compton, you know, and they're talking about how much they loved Sabbath and Ozzy and so on. And I cannot easily articulate what a tremendous person he was in terms of his impact on everything. I mean, children's movies featured Crazy Train. You know, my girls, when Megamind came out, when we got in the car, I said, hey, you guys want to hear that song at Megamind? They're like, yeah. And I blasted Crazy Train and they loved it, you know? So go with God, Ozzy. Yeah. Go with God.
It's yeah. And the other thing that amazed me about Ozzy, can't really top that, but just how long he lived with all the shenanigans that he pulled when he was young. Like how, you know, that and almost Tolkienian to where the ancient kings of Numenor could choose their own time of death. He, you know, he's like, I got one last concert and then I'm ready.
Yeah. You know, I think given that the song "The Wizard" is actually about Gandalf, that tracks. that absolutely tracks.
Well, moving over to hopefully a little happier news. You had mentioned EggCon, Dungeon Delver. How did it go?
EggCon was phenomenal. I had an absolute blast. They're ramping up for EggCon 3 already, guys. Go to I'm going to drop the URL and Yang, if you could put this up. Let's see. I don't know that I'll be at EggCon 3, but man, I was at EggCon 2 and it was a load of fun. I ended up I ran a couple of games, and I played in a whole lot of games. I went down to shoot B-roll in the Legends of Wargaming room, which now I've had Paul Stormberg on my live stream, and he's talked about all the stuff he's done for Legends of Wargaming, and I could not give it an adequate description in the time that we have, but I went down there to shoot. I went down there to shoot B-roll on Saturday morning, and Paul just grabbed me and said, "Hey, we're playing chainmail over here. Come play Vikings versus Eurasians." And I did that. That game was fun. We won, by the way. The Vikings won, which is nice because usually they choke in the playoffs. But football humor for you guys.
We are now preempted in Minnesota.
Yes. So I ended up doing that, and then that lapsed into I played Dungeon on Paul's gorgeous 3D. Now it's not 3D printed, but it's actually carved out of foam, and there's bits of wood. The Dungeon board game, and there are different levels. So in the high levels are in the middle, and then as you go down, you literally the whole thing is tiered, so you actually go down in levels of dungeons. And then immediately after that, I got into his AD&D game where he ran basically the entryway to the Ghost Tower of Inverness. And that was just one day. Friday morning, I ran, where is it? This is an excellent module, tourney module by Chris Clark. Let me do a quick zoom in here so you can maybe see that a little bit better. But this is Extreme Spiders that I ran for the tourney. I did run a little bit of Teeth of the Barkesh Noir, and then I ran a little piece of Keep on the Borderlands, the Temple of Evil Chaos section of Keep on the Borderlands, because Keep on the Borderlands is a mega dungeon module. You can't, you can't just say I'm going to run this at a tournament. You're going to run one area of it at a tournament. So yeah, I just said Temple of Evil Chaos, go, and Heidi and Eric were absolutely wonderful hosts. I roomed with Alan Hammock, TSR veteran, writer, also writer of Ghost Tower of Inverness, and that led to a funny story because we were sitting there, Paul's DMing, and I jokingly said, "Hey, I'm rooming with Alan Hammock." Excuse me, had a sneeze come on. I'm rooming with Alan Hammock. Do you guys want me to call him for a lifeline on this puzzle? And everybody laughed. Of course, I wasn't going to do it. And Paul just looks at me steely-eyed and says, "Do it.
Do it.
Call him." No, you said call him. So I called him, and he couldn't hear us over the restaurant, but he came back over like an hour later, and I didn't see him come in the room as my back was to the door of the room we were gaming in. And I just hear him like, "You dare." I was like, so we all had a laugh, but it was nice for Alan to stop by. And the whole thing was a gas. The hotel was wonderful. I have nothing but good thing to say about it. I will point out one thing. It is a small convention. If you're one of those people where like a big chunk of the convention is just going to vendors tables, probably not going to be your jam. I would fill my schedule with gaming and then take like maybe an hour at most when you go to visit the vendors and talk to them. Jeff Easley was one of those vendors.
Oh, wow.
The great Jeff Easley was there. And so were many other wonderful creative people. Who else was there? Chet Minton Chet Minton, who has done a lot of wonderful, wonderful art. Chet was there. And I, folks, I apologize for not remembering vendor's name, but I meant two really awesome people and got a couple little goodies for the Delver's daughters. So
that would be that's your next that's your spin-off YouTube channel. The Delver's
yeah, get those
Daughters.
two on cameras. The Delver's daughters,
and it's all about growing up with a D&D dad.
Yeah. So
That would
so
be awesome.
I had a good time. It was exceptionally well organized. And I'm not just saying that because I was a guest of honor, but no, I had a lot of fun. I shot a lot of video. You guys can check those out on my channels. I had I got to live stream with Harold Johnson of DSR, and I preliminarily have arrangements to have Harold come on the show, and Mike Mornard's going to come on the show. And they're just, and a special shout out to the staff, the guys they had working there. Kanek was one. It was nice to see her. I'd met her one time before in 2023 when I went to GaryCon, but she was there helping get it done. And the rest of the staff was excellent. And Heidi and Eric, of course, were frazzled and pulled in a million different directions. But the times that I did get to see them were wonderful. I'm going to let you guys in on a little food hack for Lake Geneva. It's a tourist town. Everything's expensive.
Yeah.
But if you go, and this is going to sound like an unendorsed plug because it is, go to Gino's East and get a kid's pizza. It's a 10-inch pie for $7.99 with one topping. You're set for like 2 meals with that. Like if you're by yourself, like if you eat it at the Lake Geneva Social Club, it's like $30 a plate.
Yeah.
But versus $8 for 2 meals on that, not counting a soda. So that's my little life hack. If you go to EggCon, Gino's East, and then if you want more toppings, you can spend like $1. So anyhow, that is my tiny capsule EggCon summary report. Unfortunately, I think they were all too goody to recruit into our ranks for World Takeover, but they are good people and they will be well considered when our takeover does in fact happen.
Excellent. And for those who believe Wisconsin is far too hot, Brother, Father, Minister, why don't you tell us how the preparations for CleriCon are going?
Well, they're going well. If small cons are your thing and you want to do more gaming and less vendor tabling, then CleriCon is the spot to go. I'm going to throw the link up there if you want to stick that on screen. We do have vendors. We do have some lovely folks who are there as vendors, but the focus is very much on the gaming. It is going well. This year I added last year I actually had a second space last year, but for more of the time we've got a second space, and that has raised the number of tables up considerably. Actually, I have to go through and count it up again. There's 22, 25, there's 35 total games being played over the 3 days. So for a small con, it packs a lot in. And so far, the registrations total last year officially were 54, I want to say, but then there was always a handful of people who came on the day and just gave me cash, or vendors who didn't sign up because they weren't going to play any games, so they didn't register and things like that. So we ended up around 60 some people last year. This year we're already at 70. It's 2 months out and we're already over 70 registrations.
Wow.
Nice.
So yeah, I think we're already at 75 or something like that. But it's 74 maybe. Anyway, but so and we have 2 months to go. Yeah, we're 74 registrations with 2 months left to go. There are games that are still open, so if you are in the north of the US, or if you're in the area of Ontario, or if, like ye old geek, you want to get on a plane in the UK and fly over. I can't believe the man's doing it his second year now. Yeah, ye
Oh
old
my
geek is
gosh.
coming from the UK.
Excellent.
We got Bandits Keep and Hexed Press. Both they drive up together from New York. Yeah, so lots of folks coming. Someone just messaged while we were on here, coming from Nova Scotia. Someone else is coming the other way from BC. So so people are doing some serious traveling. Yeah, so that's lots of good stuff happening, and it's going to be a lot of fun. There's good folks running good games, a lot of old school stuff, and newer things that are still in the kind of old school vein. There's a fellow last year, David. He wrote a Hardy Boys role playing game. And
that's awesome.
I wanted to play it so bad last year, but I couldn't. It was happening at the same time as one of my games, but I manipulated the schedule this year to make sure I could play in it. So it's a new game. It's like a year old. Well, he's been working on it for a little while, maybe a year and a half, but it definitely has an old. This is like 1920s, 1930s Hardy Boys. Yeah, they got Call of Cthulhu. Fleetwood's running Call of Cthulhu. So is Ye Old Geek. All sorts of cool stuff happening. All sorts of stuff. Now, there is one AD&D game, I think. Yeah.
That's it?
Yeah. Vince is running a first edition AD&D. There's two?
Yeah, Lick.
No, Dragonlance is second edition.
Oh, no. Sorry.
Sorry, Fleetwood is here trying to.
I will make the joke one more time. I promise you I will run as epic a virtual Claricon game as you ran for the Guac Father.
I'm sorry.
I know. I had to make the joke one more time.
Yeah. I did 2 years. I did run games.
I know you did, which is why I'm teasing you and not like Jen. If I didn't say anything and then just didn't show up,
yeah,
then I was pissed. But no, I am looking forward to doing some virtual Claricon gaming. I just got to figure out what I'm going to do and when.
Yeah, that's awesome. And D and Disability. That's the thing. Yeah, on the Claricon Discord server, there's a bunch of people talking about games, and I think D and Disability is the first one to actually say yes, I'm running something. So that's gonna be cool. That's gonna be cool. Yeah. So that's the news. That's all the news that's fit to print from Claricon.
And well, perhaps very quickly you should. Well, the dates are there, October 24th through 26th.
Yes.
So your Halloween candy will not be all gone. Glen Williams, Ontario. If people are planning on coming out, should they stay in Glen Williams? Should they find a place nearby?
So there's no hotel in Glen Williams itself, but in the nearby Georgetown there are also there's also Airbnb. In fact, last year a handful of people said they were gonna, instead of doing the hotel this year, they were planning to get together and get an Airbnb. There's those kinds of things. There's another motel a ways away that the first year I advertised it as a place to stay. I said, but I did warn people. I said, it looks kind of dodgy. I've never stayed there. Looks kind of dodgy. And indeed, someone stayed there and said, oh, it's very dodgy. He spent one night at the hotel and the next night in his car in our parking lot. But that's the thing. So people are bringing up campers. They're bringing up camper vans. They're just going to park them in the parking lot. Someone else is talking about pitching a tent, which in late October in Ontario might be brave, but doable.
You guys are going to start getting the white stuff up there pretty soon.
Sometimes we get it that early. Usually it's not. I think the earliest we've seen any serious snow is the beginning of November. I remember in All Saints Day, which is November 1st, where we got that much snow, but it was gone by the 3rd kind of thing. But
Right.
probably not at the end of October, but it's going to be cold at night. It's going to be cold.
Yeah.
Then, yeah, it's. I was gonna say then, no snow. It's gonna be chilly. But no, that's great. So how about the feast, Padre? What's the feast this year?
The feast, we're opening dinner with it's a chicken. I don't remember the name of the dish. It's an Italian chicken dish. The company that so the first year, church ladies cooked the opening feast, and it was delicious. But it's gotten bigger, clearly, and so last year we went with a catering company that uses the parish hall. They're part. They're not part of the parish, but they actually are. But they rent out the parish hall for their own company for the kitchen, and so I hired them last year and hired them again this year to do it. Coast Catering. So it was delicious last year. I anticipate it will be this year.
Excellent.
Very cool.
Good stuff. And during the feast, we have a trivia contest, which Bill has been so kind to the past couple of years to contribute some questions.
I will try to be less ruthless this year.
The first year was brutal. Last year, I think was you hit the sweet spot. People, more people got the answers to those. The first year was it was like when Zeb Cook went to what was he wearing?
Yeah, I kind of leaned heavily into the insider baseball the first year, so I'll try and I'll try to cleave to last year's trivia questions this year, and it's not that there wasn't a winner the first year. It's just like the guy that got 3.
Yeah, he got. I think out of 30 questions, he got 13. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, that
was the high. It was the high watermark. Actually, one of my boys, and I don't remember which one it was, got almost as many just randomly picking, just going that.
Well, send me back the questions or point me to them on our Discord conversation, so I will know the rhythm and timbre of questions, so I don't inadvertently fall back into the first one. So
Cool.
Gary Gygax had a gas heated water heater in his house. Who was the name of the guy who came on November 1st, 1975 to do a tune up on it?
And what did he have for lunch?
Yeah, what did he have for lunch? Come on, guys! He had pastrami at the Olympic. It's as plain as the nose on your face. Yeah. I'll try.
You know your trivia.
Don't you know your D&D trivia? You call yourself fans?
So here in the center of the Nerd Council of Doom's domain, and I believe up north, we have finally hit a patch of what I like to call livably cool air. That means summer is quickly waning, and we are coming towards the end of another movie season. Yes. And I was wondering what your opinion was. We had certain phenomena come out this year. We had a new Superman movie. We had a Fantastic Four movie. But it seems like the movie that people are really looking forward to is this one. Nobody 2.
Nobody 2.
Yes.
I think I'm the only one of us who has seen it yet.
Movie tickets were not on my purchase list this morning as I had originally planned, but tell us about it, Brother Yang.
Well, I don't want to get too into it, but it was a fun time. If you had to compare it to Nobody 1, I would say it loses a little bit because the genius of Nobody 1 is that it comes off somewhere between a Death Wish movie and Falling Down, if with Michael
Douglas.
Douglas.
yeah.
Thank you. So it's about a middle-aged guy whose wife hasn't been sleeping with him for a while. His kids don't respect him. He misses the opportunity to beat up some intruders, but later on we learn why. And he slowly slips back into his life as an auditor, which means he basically killed people for a living because it's from the same creators as John Wick. And of course he did. But it really taps in, I think, into something very real for a lot of middle-aged men, where, you know, you wish you could just take out all that anger and aggression on, you know, people who, in this case, rightly deserved it. But sadly, we do not live in that fantasy world. Nobody 2, very, the action is fantastic. The story is serviceable, but we already know that he's a former assassin.
Right.
So when it comes down to it, it's not as surprising, it's not as fun to watch him slowly lose his mind and kill all of the Russian mafia. So I would say that. But my real question is, what happened to the superhero movies? Because to me, it seems like action movies that people want to see are sort of gravitating towards smaller films. You could put the original John Wick in this category. Nobody went into some other smaller action films. Are we done with superheroes?
I think so.
Yeah, there might be.
I think we're done with superhero movies. We're done. I mean, I was done with superhero movies with I Am Iron Man. And I don't mean that in a negative way. Screw that. I'm done. I mean, like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
You know, we did an epic arc of 20 some odd films that started out literally with Iron Man kind of hanging on the heels of a very successful run of Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, which compared to the way things were at the end, those early Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies were almost like independent student films.
They're quaint.
They're quaint.
Yeah.
Although I got to say, I absolutely adored the fact that they brought back the director of those to make the third MCU Spider-Man movie, and he actually made the fourth independent Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie. I just, you know, I really like Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. He was wholesome and believable and so on. But now here we are 23 years later. God, I can't believe I'm saying that.
Yeah.
You know, here we are 23 years later, and I just don't fucking want to see sky beams and capes and I don't want it, and I especially don't want Pedro Pascal in it.
No.
I think there probably would be a place for a superhero movie that was way less glossy, like The Penguin, which is a super villain movie, but you know, or a TV show. Actually, it was a TV series.
Penguin was like Joker. Like Joker is a modern day taxi driver. It has nothing to do with superheroes, and Penguin is The Sopranos.
Yeah, I think
it's a hyper violent The Sopranos.
I'm going to disagree slightly. I think it does have something to do, Joker at least, because it's about the it's about a parallel personality and purposely putting on the costume. Like when he got the makeup on, when he got the suit, even though his questions as to what of it is real, you know, he was unleashed in a way that he wasn't before. Like when he fights the guys in the train, in the subway, it's sarcastic. It's just, it comes out of nowhere, you know. But when he gets
Mhm.
the suit on, he's taking ownership of it. But I get what you say. It's not what we've come to think of as a superhero movie, and I
It's
love
not.
it for that.
It's not sky beams and red
It's not sky beams.
hexagonal energy fields.
Yeah, and I think
It's
there's probably a market for that, to get like, okay, you've done the happy, let's grow up now. You know what the Watchmen was trying to be, the movie version, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I would absolutely watch a John Bernthal Punisher movie.
Yeah.
Like just literally, like, the gloves are off. We're not even doing like, well, this is streaming and we can be a little bit. No, I'm talking about something that's got like the frothers at the MPAA demanding like an NC-17 rating level of Punisher movie. I would watch that in a heartbeat, but you're not putting me down in front of a spandex clad bobblehead anymore. It's just not gonna happen.
Well, but to me, that's really the question: is it superheroes themselves, or is it just because Hollywood can't make a movie to save their life? One of the nice things about John Wick 1 and Nobody, probably both Nobodies, is that they're a much smaller movie with a much smaller budget, and they have people working on it who are very interested in making that specific kind of product, from the writer to the director to the main actors, and Keanu Reeves and the guy Odenkirk, Bob
Yeah.
Odenkirk.
Bob Odenkirk, yeah.
You know, they're all very passionate about making this kind of movie. Whereas like MCU, like we get stuff like the director is telling people not to read the original source material, and whatnot. So I'm wondering if it really is like, if you had a really good spandex movie that was well written, the people in it wanted to do it. I'm with you on the no sky beams, but let's say a really good would be a really good Wolverine movie where it's serious, but
Logan.
Yeah, Logan. We had
oh,
one.
okay, all right, there you go.
Yeah.
You're right.
We had one.
You know, would you take that?
Hey.
Because the thing that concerns me about a John
Sure.
Bernthal Punisher movie is that it's going to be the same crap like the TV show was. Like in season 2, he just lets a child pornographer go.
Okay, yeah, you know what? You make an entirely valid point. So something else. Okay, so we have strayed so far from Nobody, but something that there's when you make a Punisher movie, whether you're talking about the Thomas Jane one or, God help us, the Dolph Lundgren ones, or you go back to Blade or any of the pre MCU movies, and I would even say Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man movies, those were made in a vacuum. Those were made without the idea that the Fantastic Four are literally across Manhattan from me, that the Avengers are like up in Connecticut or wherever, that the X-Men are over in Poughkeepsie, that there's all this superhero stuff going on across the world. And part of the reason they can't do that, of course, is because of licensing. I mean, I'm sure Disney would have been over the moon if they could have figured out a way to say, other than the slight nod in the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, that there's the X-Men and there's the Fantastic Four, and they're all doing their own things. I find the inner comic book nerd, and let's be entirely honest, the outer comic book nerd in me, is there is a mental disconnect where I have trouble watching movies that I know are based in the Marvel universe and go, but wouldn't the Fantastic Four have stepped in here? Wouldn't wouldn't the smart Banner Hulk have been doing something about this? Wouldn't, and it's just, it's that comic book reader in me from the 1980s that can't let go of that. And it makes the movies a little bit less enjoyable as standalone vehicles. I mean,
this is I saw the Fantastic Four, and it had Pedro Pascal. He wasn't bad in it. I'm sorry, but he wasn't. He didn't ruin the movie. He actually was fine. What I liked about it was that for the length of the movie, it wasn't in that connected universe, and it treated it as if there was no connected universe because of that exact problem. Like, well, wouldn't Superman just help out? Well, not Superman, different thing. Wouldn't Iron Man just jump in? Wouldn't the Hulk just jump in? And I mean, I enjoyed the movie. It was fun. It's not great cinema. It's not groundbreaking. It's essentially the trolley problem writ large.
Mm-hmm.
The worst part of the movie for me was the post-credit scene where she's with the little kid who's been born, and she goes off to get a book, and she comes back, and there's Dr. Doom playing with the kid.
Yeah. When we
like,
know
oh,
what they're...
Yeah, it's like, don't make this any bigger. Just let it be what it is. Stop trying to make it into a thing.
When we know what Dr. Doom is going to be, and what Disney has already laid out the roadmap of the significance of Dr. Doom.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's just like, no, just let it be. Let it be its own thing. Don't try to weave it together into yet another, phase 7 or whatever they're on now.
And again, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you. But my inner comic book nerd chafes against that. Like, I don't disagree with what you're saying.
Right.
There's literally an eyeball to brain problem when I'm watching those movies where these two things are going, shouldn't Spider-Man be helping out with this?
Right.
See,
I always
no, you idiot, just sit there and enjoy the movie. But this is he's a Marvel character, and I'm just like, just shut up.
When I first started reading comic books, and I only read them for a short period of time. I got into them, but it was, I started out just assuming that each one was its own, like, Melville wrote Billy Budd and Moby Dick. Ishmael doesn't show up in the, they don't, there's no crossover. Yeah. Jane Austen wrote 5 novels. They're just independent things. So
wait, you don't know about the Austen verse?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Elizabeth Dashwood shows up. No, I always just assumed that that this crazy thing happening to this kid who's bitten by this spider or whatever was it. And then the crossover mania hit. And this was like late 80s, early 90s, when everybody was in each other's comic books all of a sudden. I mean, it had happened before, but it became
Secret
absurd.
Wars. Secret Wars was the big one.
Yeah. It was just everybody was in each other's comic book all of a sudden. And then you couldn't just, I was reading Daredevil. You couldn't just read Daredevil. You had to pick someone. I think I got into Daredevil because he'd popped into someone else's book. And oh, well, what? To find out the whole story, go read. I hated that. So I get what you're saying, like the interconnectedness, and they're all supposed to be in the same world. But it was always one of the things I didn't like.
I get it. And that is...
if there's a Superman, why do we need a Batman? Like, he could just punch. It doesn't need
I don't know. I'm gonna take a different tack, gentlemen. I like when the stories are kind of interconnected, but you can't have them solely interconnected. So, for example, in the last Spider-Man movie, Matt Murdock, who is Daredevil's alter ego, he shows up as a lawyer representing Peter Parker, and he's there for all of 2 minutes. Like, I'm perfectly fine with something like that, acknowledging that there are other people in this world. But I have problems when I agree there is too much overlap with these movies. And I think it was Captain America Civil War that really started this trend, because when you saw everybody get together for the first Avengers,
Mhm.
they were there and then they separated and they went to their own corners. I think that first generation of Marvel movies, where pretty much everyone was separate and they all had their own tone to the film. So if you watch the first Captain America, it was basically a World War II movie. Thor was like I don't know, almost like a classic with fish out of water
Yeah,
elements.
that's what I
to
was
it.
going to say.
Mhm.
Fish out of water story. Yeah.
Yeah, and even Ant-Man #1 was a heist movie. So they
Yeah.
all have their different flavors. Everything is now too homogenous.
Mhm.
I blame James Gunn, where it's like action, action, jokes. One guy's a jerk. Action, more jokes,
Yeah.
and it's all too formulaic. I think if they, you need something like a Punisher that I'm fine with him living in the world, of the MCU, and maybe his thing is, oh, I got to keep underground because I don't want one of the Avengers showing up. I think it's fine
Exactly. Tony
to
Stark can
acknowledge that.
finish me in like 30
Yeah.
seconds. You know.
So, if you want to acknowledge that in the world, I'm good with that. I like when it's interconnected like that. But then he should be doing something, and it should be a very dark movie, just by the nature of the character. And then you should have other superheroes which are a lot lighter, and everything should have its own vibe until you occasionally have that Avengers movie where everybody crosses over.
Mhm.
I would be happier with that.
There was
Um,
one line I can think of in the big MCU, circus that sort of pointed toward that a little bit when Stark offers Peter Parker, to be a full Avenger and to move
Mhm.
in and all that kind of stuff, and he turns it down and says, "I want to be your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man."
Yeah.
And this idea that you guys are saving the world, but meanwhile there's still been a robbery down the street.
Yeah.
Yep.
Someone's got to look at that, right? So I like that idea that he's going to step. Of course, then he got involved in world-ending things anyway. But
Yeah.
this idea that I just want to. I've got my niche over here.
Yeah, I mean, I would pay good money to watch a good Iron Fist series with somebody who could actually do fight scenes where there's like no magic. He's beating up criminal organizations and stuff. That was fantastic. I think the Netflix, well, all of them except for Iron Fist, the first series of the Netflix shows, I think set the tone right, where they all reference the MCU in some way, but the MCU doesn't really touch them and affect their individual lives. So there's no reason Thor would ever show up in one of those shows.
Okay.
Yeah.
But do we run the risk of having the same thing with movies like Nobody? And the reason I ask is we got a movie called The Ballerina, which is a John Wick spinoff where John Wick shows up. So are we at the risk of movie studios like trying to make everything a universe now?
I think that I think we're past risk, and we're into a fully irradiated zone of exclusion at this point. John Wick has done it with that the mini series that came out on Amazon, I think, and now they got the Ballerina. Nobody is part of it. Everybody wants a universe. Nobody is looking at what has happened since the end of the Infinity War, and everybody thinks that they can just recreate that.
Mm-hmm.
Bless their hearts, the people in charge of DC have tried and they have failed so many times to create a cinematic universe over and over and over and over, and it never works for them. It does not work for them. How many Batman reboots have we done? How many Superman reboots have we done?
Yeah.
I
wonder, do you think that is because the DC heroes, and I don't have a deep knowledge of comics and I'm just spitballing this, but the Marvel heroes are tonally more similar to me And maybe that's just an effect of having watched a lot of Marvel movies. But totally, the Marvel heroes feel more homogenous, and the DC ones are so very starkly different. I mean, Superman is so different from Batman, right? Batman is so different from Aquaman. You know, like there's not.
Yeah,
They're
it's very
completely different tones that they don't work together well, because you can't have the sort of hopelessly positive Superman and then the absolutely grim dark Batman. How do they even what do they say over coffee, right? You know?
Well, I mean, I think it's an issue of they don't have competent writers
Well,
to make the work, because DC has been making that work since the 60s or the 70s. So I don't know that I can agree. You know, if you took like the Punisher versus Captain America, you know, those are pretty, or Thor or something, those are pretty different as well tonally. And we haven't seen them together. So it could be partially that Marvel has been selecting characters who fit together better, because pretty much everyone who's been introduced, with the exception of, I guess, Spider-Man, has been in the Avengers.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that being the tent pole that they're and I mean I would have trouble seeing Wolverine showing up, you know, in a Thor movie. That would be
we're going to see that. We're going to see that is supposedly where they're heading with Avengers Doomsday. It's going to be another multiverse series where the multiverse presumably are going to be crashing together. So there's going to be like superhero teams in each universe trying to stop Doctor Doom. So in the main MCU, you've got the Avengers, or what's left of them, and then you've got in their universe the X-Men. So maybe even Deadpool will show up. Who knows?
Yeah, Deadpool and Wolverine works together quite well because, in that case, because of the contrast, because of the jokiness with the grittiness. I do see Super Cafe, and I think most of what Batman says is, "I'm Batman."
That's all he needs to say. Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I think that DC has had a much worse time of it, because Marvel got to fumble around for that whole first round of superhero movies and figure out what stuck. Whereas DC was late to the game and they sort of had to make it work, and they couldn't make it work. So, I mean, they technically do have a DC universe for the movies, but nobody likes it.
No.
That's the big problem. And I'm not entirely convinced that James Gunn is going to fix it.
James Gunn's Superman by James Gunn?
You know, I like Superman. Superman was good, but is he going to be able to do grittier stuff? Like they're making the sequel to the Robert Pattinson Batman movie from a couple of years ago, which I liked a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't see, but that was always supposed to be separate from whatever movie universe they have. I don't know how James Gunn can make a good Batman movie. You know, he'll end up like the campy 60s Batman.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If they went there and they just went with that whole hog, that'd be fabulous. It'd be hilarious.
Yeah.
But if they try to do something between, you know, the gritty or the Arkham Asylum, you know, they try to find a middle ground, it's just going to end up weird. It's going to end up like Joel Schumacher. Bat nipples.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Oof. Scary.
That was a dark period.
Yeah.
And you know, we have one more smaller tangent to this discussion, gentlemen, and that is we have this news coming to us from Clownfish TV. Marvel just left the USA. So they have jumped ship and they are now headquartered over in London, England, because they don't want to pay the money. And it's funny because I kind of remember some politicians several months ago talking about like extra fees on foreign made movies. And I had no idea what the heck they were talking about. But since Hollywood doesn't seem to be able to write films well, and they're all going overseas, is this sort of the death knell of American entertainment and culture?
I think it could be very much so. I will say this. So I haven't followed this, and I haven't really thought about the long-term implications of it. Yang, Padre, you guys fans of the show Spaced?
Never seen it.
Spaced is pretty good. It's a UK sitcom, and I gotta give due to the lineup, and I'm going somewhere with this, I promise. But it's hang on. Yeah, it's Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, so many comic titles you recognize. At the end of the series, because it's a Britcom, so there's like 3 seasons and 15 episodes.
Yeah.
And they're spread out over 6 years. But at the end of the series, and this is not everything that the show worked up to, this is literally just a point. Simon Pegg is an aspiring comic book artist, and he's over the moon because he's gotten a chance to go work for Marvel Comics in the United States. So I just think it's funny that here we are 25 years after that show there. And if he just been patient and gone to seed as a middle ager, the job would have come to him. But yeah, I've got some thoughts. Now, I didn't read a bunch. Like, I was not the most. I did read a lot of indies and stuff like that, but I think of like Judge Dredd in 2000 AD and stuff like that came out of the British press in the 80s. And it was a 180 degree around from American comic style. The British comic book style sensibilities are extremely different. And the only times when I can think of Brits taking an American comic book on is like Alan Moore and Watchmen. And what did he want to do? He wanted to deconstruct.
Yeah.
You could argue that Judge Dredd is a satire of Captain America. They just have this very world weary approach to things that still inspire and move people. And I'm sorry, UK friends, I don't know that you guys have what it takes to make a good American style superhero. Here's Captain America, or here's Superman stopping a satellite from falling on a small town in Montana. It's like, can you guys even find Montana on a map? And before anybody jumps up my hind end about, but American education levels and that sort of thing, guys, I've seen pages and pages and pages and pages of memes of Brits trying to figure out what the American states are and what's there and what they're famous for. You guys, we don't have a corner market on geographic ignorance.
Well, the big one for me is when Brits, would come visit and say, "Oh, it's lovely. Milwaukee is very nice. We're going to take a day trip down to Florida."
Yeah, exactly.
So, do you?
Or you live in Florida, do you? I have a friend who went to Florida once. Perhaps you met him.
Yeah. Hey, squirrel.
I'm sorry. It is a shorter drive from London to Edinburgh than it is from Miami to Orlando.
Yeah.
In terms of time, I don't know about exact distance, but it's definitely in terms of distance from Miami to Tallahassee, Florida. So I don't know that it's going to be good. I mean, I guess if they start making superheroes that are just based in the UK and just doing UK-ish stuff, that's bully for them. But I mean, you know, and I'm saying this as someone who hasn't read a Marvel comic on purpose in decades.
How did you accidentally read one?
You know, you're bored. You're walking through a comic store trying to find the D&D dice and miniatures and paint, and you pick one up and thumb through it. It's kind of like, how do you accidentally see a Medusa? Well, you know, it happens. But I don't like. One of the worst runs of Captain America was done by a guy named Tanishi Coates. And it's for reasons that I am not going to launch into right now. But to encapsulate it, I think dude really didn't believe in the idea, the ethos that Captain America represented at all. How can we entrust that to you know, these are cultural icons: Spider-Man, Captain America, Incredible Hulk. These three are American icons. It'd be like, you know, oh, well, some corporation in the United States has bought Tintin entirely, and they're bringing all the development here to the United States. It'll be written by Americans, drawn by Americans. Or if you said, you know, well, I have bought all of Jean Giraud Mobius's IP, and I'm going to start having it developed now by American artists with American sensibilities. There are uniquely European vibes in Giraud's work. I'm sorry, I cannot remember the creator of Tintin now. In that work, and I would want. I mean, it's like saying American manga. That is like a handful of steel bearings and glass shards in the fine gear work of my mind when people say American manga. It's fine to translate, but no, there is no such thing as American manga. There are comics made in the United States that maybe ape Japanese art styles, but that is a completely Japanese art style. There are two, I can't remember one of them, what one of them is called, but there are a pair of Cold War era Japanese comics. One is called In the Silent Service, and In the Silent Service basically deals with a bunch of radical Japanese nationalists, led by they're all Navy officers, Japanese Navy officers, and on Okinawa they storm an American submarine, and they do away with the skeleton crew of the American submarine, and they take it over, and now they're armed with nuclear weapons, and they're like, guess what, we just made Japan great again. That is a very, very Japanese nationalism and the specter of it, and their attitude towards kind of the patriarchal approach of America up through the 1980s. That is a very uniquely Japanese social experiment, and filtered through comics. I would not want that to come back through an American lens. And I don't want I don't want to read about I don't want to read a British author's writings of Tony Stark or Captain America or the Incredible Hulk or Spider-Man, because they don't live here and they don't know what the American brand is. They don't know what we're all about. God bless them. They're our cousins. We are two wonderful countries separated by a common language, but there is a clearly visible division between our mindsets. I mean, you can go watch Lost in the Pond. You know, is Lawrence. He's lived in the United States for a decade plus now, and he's still like, okay, I didn't realize this was a thing with Americans. And dude has lived here for decades, and he loves the United States. He's a dual citizen here, but he's every day or every week he drops a video about how he's blown away by various Americanisms. And imagine you're entirely UK centric and a UK chauvinist. How can you sit down and write a story about Spider-Man and his feelings for living in Queens, or Captain America's unwavering love of this country with the accepted run that I had mentioned before, or the Hulk having to hide out in the vasty wilderness of the United States somewhere away from the military, or Tony Stark's absolute exceptionalism, when it comes to his feelings of independence and screw you. Yeah, I'm super wealthy, but you know what? I earned every penny of this. I made the armor. I do the thing. I just don't know that our cousins across the ocean are going to get it. Just like I wouldn't trust an American author writing Judge Dredd. Rant off.
Yeah, there is a sort of tonal approach philosophy that may get lost in translation.
Yeah, I mean that's my big problem. I think that the biggest issue is that it's not like there aren't going to be any American writers or there aren't going to be any American directors. You can already say that large companies, multimedia companies, are international in the people that they hire. The problem for me is going to be the everyday people. Who works in HR? Well, they're going to hire people who have their sensibilities, not necessarily the top name directors, but showrunners, people who do additional rewrites, the average working schedule. I mean, it's just not going to be the same, and I think that it is going to be to America's detriment. However, perhaps this is a chance for us to clean out the underbrush, clean out the debris that have clogged our media forest for so long. And if we can burn that all out, new growth can occur.
Oh, there you're coming in with the metaphors. Well done. Well done.
Well, you had me thinking about Nova Scotia with your guest who's coming, and hopefully won't be walking through the forest on his way to Claricon.
No, I think she's taking a plane. So,
okay. Well, gentlemen, is there anything else on the agenda for today?
I can't think of anything other than I got to give a shout out, Roto-Rooter, Central Florida. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much.
I got both a dog and children whining for dinner, so I should probably get making those things.
Right on.
So I am just going to make a quick plug for Empire of the Undying Sun,
Yes.
which is a horror campaign, which will be for both Dungeons & Dragons 5th, 2014 or 2024, whichever edition, and for D&D 1E. The Kickstarter launches in October. We have not only a campaign guide for the Empire of the Undying Sun, but there will be 13 adventure modules available for sale as well, which all can occur in the world, or you could easily take it and plop it in your own campaign setting. And our own Dungeon Delver has written 3 of them.
That's right. I have, and I'm looking forward to doing a lot more work with Empire of the Undying Sun. It is a project that I am proud to put my name on, and I am very, very grateful for Yang for putting his trust in me to develop for such a cool, unique world, and to focus, to have a focus of it. Have a focus of it be for first edition AD&D. So I heartily endorse Empire of the Undying Sun, and we're going to have Yang over on the Delver's Dungeon at the appropriate time for the launch.
So the Dungeon Delver has written 3 of the adventure modules: Fairy Hill, the Rat King, and the Willow Sisters. If you go to empireoftheundyingsun.com, you can register to get an email notification for when The game launches in October. And
Link is over there.
oh, yes.
The link is over there.
It's right there. Click that. And if you want Fairy Hill, it will only be available for VIP members. It's $2.99. You will get that. You will get a poster, which if you back at a print level, you will get a printed poster of the artwork from the game, which is going to be awesome. You will also get colored tokens that you can use in the virtual tabletop of your choice, or print them out to use on a battle map, perhaps on a terrain that you were inspired to build by watching the Dungeon Minister's channel.
Mostly people get inspired by watching my stuff to say, oh, I could do that better. That's what they do. And don't forget also, folks, go down that way and subscribe if you haven't, and down over there and like or dislike if you don't like it. I mean, it's all engagement. We don't care.
Yes, subscribe to the Nerd Council of Doom, like the video, or, pretend you do, and you can get notified next month when we come back.
Yes.
All right. Well, then, gentlemen, I think that is it for the month of August. Next month, we will be fully back in back to school, back to world domination mode. So everyone, have a good evening.
Peace.